All right, off-season is going to pick up big time coming up here. So, Jeff, I want to ask you, people seem to be down and out with Mason Rudolph. We've only seen him 2 games in the last 2 years. One he found out he was going to play the night before, and the other he did pretty well in Cleveland. Why so much dislike for Mason Rudolph?
I think part of it is he hasn't really had a vote of confidence from his peers. There haven't been guys in the locker room that have come out and said, hey, let's give Mason a chance, or we're looking forward to seeing what Mason could do. And I think the fans read that and say, wow, no one has confidence in this guy in that locker room.
But they were saying it before then. A lot of people were saying it even before they ever heard from anyone.
Oh, no, I agree with that. But I'm saying there's no reinforcement. There's, if Cam Hayward or T.J. Watt or somebody, Najee Harris were to come out and say, hey, how about this guy's good in practice, let's give this guy a shot. But we haven't heard any of that. When Kevin Colbert, to Will's point earlier, mentioned that, hey, Mason Rudolph is going to be our guy, there was a heart stoppage in the town of Pittsburgh for whatever reason. Listen, I don't think Mason Rudolph is any different than Jimmy G. I'm willing to give him a chance. And listen, if he bombs spectacularly, then you're going to get that high draft choice that you want.
Well, I would say this. I mean, people have determined that they didn't like him, and guess what? Doesn't matter what he does. He could go 15-0 next year, and the same group will probably say they don't like him. He suffers from 2 things. One, he's not Ben, and that's, let's face it, you replace a legend of any kind as a coach, as a quarterback, people are not going to like you. And 2, the last time we saw him, he didn't play very well. I mean, forget for a minute that he didn't find out he was going to play till the night before, late the night before, and also played with horrendous weather conditions. People have just determined that he's not a good quarterback, and so until he plays and plays well, he's going to fight this really until the season starts, and if he's the starter, until he actually goes out and plays well.
I mean, something that kind of gets lost in this, when Kevin said that the other day, when he said Mason Rudolph, if the season started tomorrow, would be our starting quarterback, he's also the only quarterback on the roster. Okay, he's literally the only quarterback on the roster. So, look, I thought, I joked with you guys, like, it seemed to me like when I woke up Tuesday morning, I thought Mason had thrown 17 picks in some sort of like flag football game on Miami Beach somewhere. I mean, do I think he's great? No, but guess what? Like 90% of the quarterbacks in the NFL are not great. This is how the other half has lived for a long time. I just think there are so many other holes on this roster that with the money that's spent, I mean, it'd be great my job would be a lot of fun if Aaron Rodgers was here. It would be a lot of fun because he is going to say stuff and he's going to play well and people are going to read what we write and they're going to listen to Paul and they're going to listen to Jeff. They're going to watch KDKA. But, I mean, like, wasting money there were so many other holes to fill on the offensive line, defensive line, that bringing in a quarterback that makes $30 million a year makes 0 sense. So just ride with Mason or somebody that's cost effective and see what you got.
All right, real quick, go around the horn on this, Jeff, back to you on it. So I'm going to rule out free agency. I'm going to rule out drafting, okay? A lot of people brought up trade. Jimmy Garoppolo's name was mentioned by some respected people this week. If it's a trade, which one of these guys would you want to trade for? Garoppolo, Carson Wentz, Deshaun Watson? My answer is going to be Gardner Minshew because it won't cost all that much, and he had shown me at age 25 he still can play pretty well, and I'd rather have that than some overpriced guy who may not make the difference. What about you, real quick, around the horn?
And I don't have a none of the above.
No?
It sure as hell is not Jimmy G. I mean, that would be an Aramis Ramirez trade for the Steelers. I would go, I guess, Minshew because he's not, if I have to pick one of those guys.
Paul?
Well, I saw one of the hot take guys today link them to trading for Russell Wilson. So you got to add him to the list because, the Steelers quarterback room, according to these national guys, are going to have – Steelers quarterback room is going to be about 26 guys deep. I would say this, if it's not Russell Wilson, who's actually really good and can help you win, I'm with Jeff, none of the above. But if you're going to push me to it, I don't know. Whoever is the cheapest of those names that you just reeled off, whoever's the cheapest and is going to cost the less than trade value.
All right, 30 seconds, Will.
Yeah, I mean, if you can get a fourth-round pick, a fifth-round pick for Carson Wentz, I just think he's, you could get him probably renegotiate the contract, get him for a song, and I mean, make him competition for Mason, and that's it. And then maybe I still think Carson can play. He makes some stupid decisions, but I still think he can play, so that would be my choice.
He did for a large part of last year, and then he fell apart at the end. We're going to take a break. When we come back, baseball on the brink of losing games again. We'll talk about it next right here on KDKA.